Okay, I'm here at the European Climate Change Adaptation Conference in Rimini, and I'm speaking to María José Sanz, who is Scientific Director of the Basque Centre for Climate Change and Coordinator of the MAIA Project. María José, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for being here.
So, first question, climate change is accelerating faster than we are adapting to it. Why is that? Why are we not keeping up?
Well, climate change is indeed accelerating fast. The question that still remains is if we can adapt or not. Indeed, one of the biggest issues is that the extreme events are happening earlier than we expected in the 2 decades ago. So this is causing lots of impacts that is difficult to cope with. The other change is the more let's say, continuous change on some variables, and that is still to be seen if we can adapt well or not.
Mm-hmm. All right, what are the main barriers or challenges to adaptation apart from those accelerating extreme events?
Well, one of the main barriers of adaptation is that to adapt, you need to perceive the risk. So one of the challenges is that the society needs to perceive that there is a risk, and therefore we need to change in order to address or minimize the vulnerability we have against the risk. So this is one of the challenges. The other challenge is that actually it will have a cost. So it's always hard to see if the cost is very high, people get paralyzed because those big investments are difficult to mobilize. So not perceiving the risk, the cost, which sometimes is magnified, and it could be done. The communication of adaptation and risk can be done in a way that people feels that it's possible to change.
Mm-hmm. So who needs to lead overcoming those barriers? Is this something that needs to come from policy? Does industry need to lead the way with that? How can we overcome those barriers?
It's a shared effort. No one can lead with adaptation or with impacts alone. Indeed, this concept of shared resilience is taking traction because now we are indeed planning adaptation at the level where actions need to happen. And that is very clear that the risk need to be shared across industry, across public authorities, citizens, let's say, private organizations. So it's a territorial effort, and there you have all the elements that live and coexist there.
Mm-hmm. Are there any opportunities in terms of adaptation? And if there are, how can we take advantage of them?
I think there are opportunities because we already decided that we want to mitigate, we want to change the models we have in terms of how we produce energy, how we consume, and so on. So it's an opportunity to integrate adaptation issues with mitigation issues, and that will create a society which is more resilient, but at the same time, a society that has a welfare and is a healthy society. So I think by integrating all these aspects, together with current social conflicts and so on, you can produce a society which evolves on the right direction. So it's one element for an opportunity for the future.
Mm-hmm. All right. How big is the gap in terms of adaptation between where we are now and where we need to be?
It is hard to judge. I think it will depend on the context where you have to adapt. In some places, the gap may be smaller. In some places, it will be bigger. So adaptation is local, mostly. Mm-hmm. So the gaps need to be actually dimension where the action needs to be happening. And then, of course, you have some transversal elements that need to be enabling adaptation to happen at the local level. But at the end, adaptation measures are local.
Mm-hmm. And which are some of the hotspots? I know the Mediterranean, for example, is our climate change hotspot. Which are some of the areas that are most vulnerable and adapting least?
The Mediterranean is a hotspot, but in some way, because the type of climate, there are already adaptations. So it may be easier to adapt further. But in climates where, for example, droughts never existed, the perception of the risk it may be higher and the damage may be higher. For example, in the case of vegetation, if you have a drought in a temperate climate, it is very difficult for vegetation to overcome a drought. If you have a drought in the Mediterranean, vegetation can recover. So it depends on when the thresholds that cannot be overcome by the biological systems are happening, or if you have thresholds related to the extreme events.
Okay, so you are project coordinator for the MAIA project, which is an EU-funded initiative designed to maximize the impact and the accessibility of climate change research. How is MAIA contributing to closing this gap and advancing, what we're doing to tackle climate change?
MAIA pretends to be a space for sharing, a space for sharing technology, and a space for sharing knowledge, and a space where everyone can feel comfortable, use language that understand, and then bring all what is being produced so far by European projects, or at least part of it, in order to be translated for users that need to understand better or need to act. So this is the space that MAIA wants to occupy. I mean, this is also the way the CSS work, no? It's not easy because the volume of knowledge produced is tremendous. The fragmentation of knowledge is huge, but at least we try parts of it to be brought together. For example, in the case of MAIA, we generated this taxonomy for solutions and the connectivity hub. We also have some tools that users can use for free. And we have spaces for discussion, which I think is also extremely important. We shouldn't forget that discussing is important, and sharing knowledge, not only scientific knowledge, but knowledge emerging from the actual practice and the stakeholders is also very important.
You're also participating in a panel discussion and as part of the Switch project, which is focused on food systems. Can you tell us what is perhaps your main message, what you want to bring to that discussion?
Well, I mean, the food system has one part which is being discussed quite broadly in terms of climate change, which is the agricultural production and how to reduce emissions and how to adapt to climate change. But the agricultural production is just the first step of a system that produces food that the humans consume. So there are lots of possibilities to adapt in between the production and the consumption. For both adaptation and mitigation. So the system offers opportunities for that. There is also recently that the agriculture is entering into a phase of technology that is never seen before. For example, with the digitalization, the use of artificial intelligence and so on. And I think we have to balance this because agriculture is a sector that is very close to nature and is very close to the values of nature for humans. Not only food, but also water is important, health is important. So we have to balance all these aspects, not only technology, when we think in terms of agriculture and adaptation. We need to do the agriculture that can be supported by the territory rather than try to force agriculture that is not sustainable. So I think that's very important.
All right, we've covered a lot of topics here. Is there anything else that you would like to share on any of the points we've commented on or anything else at all?
Well, I think I am close to retirement myself, but I think I would like to send the message that it's very impressive that we have more knowledge than ever humans had before, and this knowledge is not necessarily useful for what we want to do. So I think we have to rethink about how knowledge needs to be integrated and needs to be used for a purpose. And knowledge means not only science, it means other type of knowledge as well. And for adaptation, this is fundamental.
María José Sanz, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.